Friday, 5 June 2020. Today is the third anniversary of a blockade that was imposed by 3 member states of the Gulf Cooperation Council, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, as well as Egypt, against the Emirate of Qatar. The announcement of this blockade was accompanied by a number of conditions, 13 at the start, that Qatar was meant to fulfill in order to be reinserted, readmitted, reaccepted into the GCC fold. So what has happened since that fateful day 3 years ago? Welcome to my intuitive reactions, the MENA and Gulf region, and this is my number 4. I am not from Qatar. I am not from the Gulf. I don't live in the Gulf. I don't have a practice or business interests in any of the countries of the Gulf. And yet, this embargo, this blockade, this decision by 3 GCC countries, to me, sounds not only peremptory, not only unnecessary, not only vicious, but also counterproductive for all 6 members of the GCC, as well as for the Arab region and the Arab peoples. The GCC was one of the very few Arab organizations that was functional, that had a purpose. And I believe that that purpose was to a large extent scuppered, voided, as a result of the decision taken by Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain on the 5th of June 2017. Now, I think that the 3 countries, as well as Egypt, wanted to exercise pressure on Qatar to, between inverted commas, toe the line. And they expected Qatar to basically lie down and accept all those conditions for the sake of re-entering this club. The disinformation campaign, the hacking, the stringent measures taken, closing the airspace, closing the maritime space, closing land passage, was meant to send a message to Qatar: shape up or ship out. Well, this small country decided that it did not need to shape up in the way the 4 blockading countries wanted it to do. But it did not want to ship out either. And what it did over a space of 3 years is to notch up a number of achievements by looking outside the box, by creating new relations, by embarking upon new projects that, if anything, have shown the strength of will and the acumen of the Qatari people. Now, I'm not going to sit here today on this 3rd anniversary on a short episode of my YouTube program to give you a political analysis or more reflections on the whys and wherefores of this decision 3 years ago, nor on its political repercussions today. I will leave that for another day, another platform, perhaps Middle East analysis that I do with James Abbott for another time. Today, what I would like to do with my viewers of YouTube is simply, without much comment, without any analysis, leave with you a few achievements that Qatar has managed to put together in those 3 years, or to consolidate in those 3 years, if you wish, that are a sign of its confidence in its future and the unnecessary spat that was created because some people thought that it's my way or the highway, we don't like what you're doing. That's not the way that state relations are run. So what are those achievements as far as I can sort of think off the top of my head? The first one was quite recent when Qatar invested some 19 billion US dollars in an order with 3 South Korean companies for a fleet of perhaps 100 tankers to be delivered by 2027 that would carry liquefied natural gas from Qatar as producer to other countries across the waters. Now, some of you might also know that Qatar is one of the main producers, if not the principal producer, of LNG worldwide. That's one achievement. Another one, perhaps symbolic but also practical, Qatar Airport, Hamad International Airport, was over many years, including 2020 this year, voted by Skytrax, which is a UK-based consultancy firm that deals with airports, as the best airport in the Middle East region, in the Arab world, and the 3rd best airport worldwide. Impressive. Another thing is that preparations are going full steam for the World Cup in 2022. It is my hope that by then we will have sorted out this COVID-19 pandemic and the world will be able to watch something that we all love, the World Cup. Even if you're not a football fan, the World Cup has a certain meaning to it. It has financial interests as well, and it has professional interests, but it also has emotional tugs. And hopefully the world will watch the World Cup 2022 in Qatar. And interestingly enough, what distinguishes this one is, despite the huge difficulties, largely climatic and temperature-wise, it will be quite an achievement for the Arab world to be able to host this event. So that work toward 2022 was not thwarted, did not stop. If anything, it is moving ahead, and some of it is already ahead of the deadline. An example, perhaps, is the metro system that is beginning to work, and there are some trials already in parts of the Emirate in order to see how it works, the stations where the metro will stop in order to carry travelers and passengers when they arrive into the country in 2022. And finally, I would just leave you with one other achievement. I'm sure other people who are far more experts on the Gulf region, there are so many names I could give, but this is not the venue. I told you I might do this on Middle East analysis. Here, I'm just basically leaving some food for thought. And finally, as I said, I would leave you with another example, and that would be the El Sahel communications satellite that was launched in 2018, the number 2. This is a project that dates back to 2010, and in 2018, a second satellite was launched by Qatar in order to help with its business communications as well as media communications. Why am I saying this? I'm just saying this because a country that was meant to surrender, to sort of say, ooh, what can I do? Let me sort of buckle under the pressure and accept those 13 silly conditions that were offered at the start of this, what I call a spat, has managed to stand tall and has managed to enter the fourth year of the blockade or the embargo with challenges, certainly, with difficulties, quite a few, with a change of course or direction in terms of its friends, in terms of its business, in terms of its trade relations, indeed. But it has managed to do it. And for me, this is not only an example that interests me as somebody who analyzes and follows and observes and writes and speaks about the whole MENA and Gulf region, but also as an example for other Arab countries. And we know quite a few that are struggling in the Middle East, North Africa, perhaps to take a leaf from the leadership that Qatar, despite the challenges, has provided for its people. I hope that come 5 June 2021, there will be no need to speak about a blockade and an embargo again. And I hope that Kuwaiti, Omani mediation in conflict resolution, something I've studied at some length, both at the university and in practice, will yield results, will yield fruit, and the GCC will reassemble its separate parts to become a viable and functional organization again.